Nobody's out there, right? Anyway, I'm just documenting something I found kind of interesting. This isn't gonna make sense to anybody else. This is just weird personal stuff that nobody would be interested in. But I sort of like figured something out. Like, I noticed this thing where basically, like, ever since I was a kid, I've been good at art. But really, I'm good at observational art where I have something to look at. And I can do drawing from imagination okay. Like, basically, long story short, when I was in 3rd grade, that was when I discovered that I had art talent. And it was really like, they put a picture of a dragon up on the wall and they had us copy the dragon. And if I could look at it, if I had physical information to go off of, I did really good. I actually won like a prize in the first, it was the first thing I ever did off observation. It won 2nd prize in the Marin County Fair. I'd never done it before. So I was talented at that. But then in the class there was another kid who was good at drawing. And he was good at drawing from imagination. Like, he would draw like comics just out of his head. But he wasn't really as good at the accurate thing. But he was still pretty good at the accurate thing. I could do the drawing from imagination, and I was better than most people in the class. Like, we were the 2 artist kids. But I was distinctly not as good as him at like drawing from my imagination if I didn't have anything to look at. But I was still better than like most people. So what am I trying to say? I figured out that that's actually a brain difference. Like, there's what's called I just looked these terms up. I'm trying to be honest. Like, basically I did this thing a few days ago where I said, like, no more bullshit. I don't want to be fake. I want to be like I'm allowed to be fake, but just for my own sake and for the rest of my life. I just want to basically just be like, let's be able to be honest about what my real strengths and weaknesses are. Like, I can do my weaknesses, but let's be honest about, like, so I never even really thought about this, but there's actually a term called practical creativity and conceptual stylistic creativity. Practical creativity is basically the how. Like, how do you map that thing onto, how do you construct that thing, and how good are you accurately at transcribing what you're seeing to and it's more like inventive physical solutions. Like, it relies on like observable physical data that you have to work with. And then conceptual stylistic creativity is the what, which is more like narrative or imagining things. Conceptual stylistic activity, it relies more on what's called abstract thought, and I've always been fascinated with that term. I always am like, ooh, abstract thought. Abstract thought, it seems like that's what I always think of as like the smart people. They're more capable of abstract thought. Abstract thought, basically all abstract thought is basically imagination. Abstract thought is like, can you come up with solutions without being confronted with data? Can you just basically like come up with something? Can you look at something and go, oh, I bet you I could turn this into something? Anyway, so I have like a little abstract thought. I'd say I have more imagination than most people, but it's not really my strong suit. Some people, they're really good at like stylistic decisions. And actually, some people who are really good at stylistic decisions, they might not make the best portrait painters, or things that they might not see things as accurately because they might want to, like, their imagination or their imagination can kind of like get in the way. They tend to sort of be biased by their imagination. I tend to see things. I'm pretty good at like portrait painting, and I basically, long story short, I'm not really as good at drawing from imagination. Like, I've been insistently trying to draw from imagination every single day, or most days, for like many years. I'm still kind of like, if I do it every day for like an hour a day, I can do it like okay. And actually, I had a job for a little while, not a very high paying job, but I had a little job as like a 2D illustrator. But even then, I was still like doing things with like reference and stuff. But like, anyway, it's just kind of interesting. Like, so what's the point? I don't know quite how to explain this, but there's like my uncle was like a craftsman. He was a painter too. He could do things from imagination, but really, what am I trying to say? There's like I don't know how to explain it. There's like a type of guy who's like a craftsman, accurate, but kind of boring. You know, like a sculptor painter guy. He wears like a gray shirt, gray pants. He's kind of like a boring guy with like a beard. That's kind of like more my nature, and I should lean into that. Like if I really want to do good work, and also like the imaginative, stylistic, inventive, imagine the what do you call it? They tend to be more of like the architect, design type people. I can do that a little bit, but my designs like they're not really as good as me as the construction, and sometimes I think of it as like there's the constructors, like the blue collar artists, and the architect white collar artists. Again, like I can design stuff and I can come up with stuff from imagination, but I don't even really like doing it as much as like some people. I also think like sometimes those stylistic people, they just they're more into like they absorb a lot more art. They really like whatever the art is, they're constantly looking at shit and remembering ideas. And I'm not huge on like style and stylistic decisions and narrative stuff. Anyway, it's just interesting. It's just strengths and weaknesses. It's good to know like what you know which side you more are on. It's worth noting, just for the record, according to ChatGPT, you know, most people who can do one, they probably are a little good at the other. Like if somebody's what was the term again? If someone's good at practical creativity, they're probably good at conceptual, stylistic creativity more so than like average people. But within the art world, there's definitely sort of like people tend to lean more towards the other, and it's just weird. Anyway, you know what I mean? Nobody's listening, right? But you know that there's those kind of like, I don't want to turn it into like a derogative, but there's those physical artist people who I always imagine them as having like a beard and like painter pants, and they look like some sort of like boring Viking guy. That's what I think of. It sort of applies to jiu-jitsu also. Like in jiu-jitsu, basically I've noticed that like jiu-jitsu is basically about like creative physical solutions. My dad and my uncle, you know, we're all sort of related. My uncle was actually really famous. He was a famous artist. He did the painting on Janis Joplin's Porsche. So again, he had like he was okay at conceptual stylistic stuff, but really he got paid as a craftsperson. He was better at like working with like physical stuff. And it's weird how like and he kind of was totally that. He was like a physical solution. And my dad, he never really focused on art because my uncle focused on art. But genetically, we all have like similar genetics. And my dad, even though he's not an artist, he loves to come up with like these like physical, like inventive solutions to stuff. He's like, oh, I found this cool way to fix this gate or something like that. And so it's a type of creativity that deals like physical solutions more so. But my dad has like creative ideas too. But like, it's just interesting how it's like type of. Nobody's listening, right? I could talk about this forever. I really shouldn't talk a lot because I'm not like super into. I'm not. My strong suit is really not like narrative, imaginative. Anyway, get to the point. Nobody's listening, right? A similar thing. I heard some guys on a podcast talking about video games. There's some people who are really good at gaming, and they play different types of games. But there's a schism in the gaming people too, or like. There's people who are into like StarCraft games, and then there's people who are more into first-person shooters. And again, it's like a physical thinking versus like conceptual thinking. And I always wish I was more of like the conceptual person, but I'm always trying to force myself to be more like conceptual. But really, I'm more of the practical creativity. That's more of my strong suit. And those people, they make like good craftsmen and constructor, builder. They like that more. I like that more. But then, you know, I can do okay designs or like imaginative architectural type things, but it's not really my strong suit. Anyway, just interesting thing I learned about. All right, I'm not really good at communicating, right? I wish I was better at communicating. Anyway, ChatGPT over and over says, good to know your strengths and weaknesses, generally good to lean into your strengths. Life is short, but you know, you can spend a little time working on your weaknesses, but you can't be great at everything. What else did I learn? That's it, that's good.